Hey guys, it's Dean Showalter from the Airplane Owner Maintenance Podcast, and I just have a couple of tips today on how to install a scat hose in an airplane engine compartment. Jeremy Zawadny sent me an email the other day, and he told me about a story of his where he had a partial power loss on takeoff, and it turned out that a hose, his was one of the black hoses, but it was similar to this, and what happened was in the induction system there was a hose and the inside deteriorated to the point where the inside collapsed and the suction of the engine pulled it closed, and he had a partial power loss. And so this prompted me to want to talk about these scat hoses a bit, and the main thing I wanted to talk about was the ones that I see most often, a little different than the double layer ones like Jeremy I believe had, and like this one. I don't see those as much, and so I just wanted to show a method for installing the type that I see most of the time, and that is the single layer scat hose with a thread on the outside and a wire on the inside. Now the thing about this spiral wound wire on the inside is that if you try to put the hose clamp on top of this hose with the wire still in it, it's like putting a clamp around a spring, and it's very hard to tighten it onto its flange. So what I like to do is pull this wire out of about the first inch or so out of the end of it so that you can clamp the fabric onto the flange rather than clamping around the wire. So we're going to pull out about the first inch or so, and we are going to trim this wire off. And we don't want to leave this wire as it is now, because that sharp end would poke a hole right through the hose like that. So what we want to do instead is we want to bend an end back into itself, something like that, and then instead of letting it sit right there in one specific location where it could still poke a hole, what we're going to do is take that wire and shove it on down inside the hose so that it can rest across several of the wire, several strands, several sections of that wire to support it a little better inside there. And that will tend to keep it from poking a hole in the outside of the hose. So once we get that end prepared like that, then it's ready to install on its flange. So I'm going to set that one aside and use this one that I've already prepared with a hose clamp on it. And I'm using this muffler simply as an example of a flange. You would not be installing a scat hose onto a muffler. This is just for demonstration purposes for a flange. It could be an airbox or some other component. But with the spiral wound removed from the end, all we have to do is put it onto the flange that we're attaching it to and tighten this hose clamp. And because we have removed the wire out of the end of this hose, it provides a nice, solid, secure way to tighten that clamp right down onto the fabric of the hose and onto the flange that's under it. And that provides a nice, strong attachment, and yet the wire is still supporting the hose so that it cannot collapse. And so I just want to encourage you, if you have an airplane, take a look in your engine compartment and make sure you do not have any scat hoses that are in poor condition or that might be collapsed. And if you go over to the Airplane Owner Maintenance Podcast, episode number 96, you can hear all about Jeremy's story and what he found and how he fixed it. Thanks. I'll see you next time.